Mike, great to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be there.
A man wielding a sword tries to rob a Dairy Queen. You were shopping nearby. Tell us what you saw, what happened.
Well, of course, there was the usual 3 miles of yellow crime scene tape, about 6 or 7 or 8 cop cars, and many unmarked. I think there was a significant police presence, you might say, and the usual bystanders wondering what's going on, which, of course, is natural.
Yeah. And you're a firearms instructor, so no customers were in the store, as I understand, but we sure might have had a very different headline if that one of those workers didn't have a firearm on him.
You never can tell what the man's intention was, whether he was actually planning to use the sword or just waving it around. But unfortunately for him, there's also no way to tell, and it's a matter of do you assume he has evil intent and defend yourself, or you put yourself at the mercy of the guy with the sword?
Yeah, you found yourself being interviewed by the media there. They found you real fast.
Well, it was actually just a coincidence. We came out of the store, we're loading groceries into the trunk of the car, and one of the camera crews came over and asked us if we'd mind commenting, and my wife said, well, no, not at all, we're firearms instructors, and then they got really interested.
Well, tell us about this, because police say it surely looks like a case of self-defense, but they're still investigating whether the employee's firearm was properly registered.
Well, the registration thing in Las Vegas, this is the only county in the state that has the registration, and it's pistol registration only. And to my knowledge, they've never taken a gun off of the registration in all the years that it's been there. So I have my own personal doubts of what use it is. It's just one of those things that we've inherited, and once the bureaucrats get something going, it's very hard to get them to do away with it.
Sounds like California.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of other states where they try to, I'm just one of those people that's of the opinion that, by the way, the definition of the word criminal means they don't pay attention to laws, so who do you get to register their guns? Law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, and as you told the media, hey, we're talking about a basic human right of self-defense.
And people, I go with Dave Grossman about there's 1% that's wolves, 1% that's sheepdogs, and then the rest are sheep that just they're useful creatures but have no capacity for violence. And I prefer not to be one of the victims, that's all.
Yeah, when you see something like this happen, do you yourself see a spike in the number of people wanting to take, your class?
Generally speaking, yes. It's people react to what they see in the news. If everything's rosy, then they're happy. If they see a threat, and whether that's a food shortage or whatever kind, then they tend to react to that too. In fact, one of the reporters came over and asked me for a card because he wanted some firearms instruction. Had never even held a gun in his life before, but apparently thought that this might be the time to learn.
Yeah, well, it makes people think. It comes down to seconds, and you can't always count on 911 or the police to be there when you need them.
Well, that's exactly right. I talk to my students about Mass Ayub. He's the one that gave me the idea that it's a safety survival tool. I have fire extinguishers so I can take care of a problem until the fire department and let the professionals handle it then. When the fire department shows up, and firearms the same thing. If the old story about when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, and that's not a bad rap on the police because the response time here in Vegas for a armed thing is within just a few minutes, and that's good. But it doesn't do you much good when there's a guy waving a sword in your face.
Absolutely. But you have a great motto on your website. I was looking at it. It's think, act, survive. That's what you teach your students.
Well, it also goes to the name of our company. When we were looking for one, my wife and I talked about it, and I came up with a calculated response, because when you're talking about firearms, you need to have it be a calculated response. You need to know what the response should be, all of the stuff that goes with use of force, because there's so much there. I mean, you want to survive the initial encounter, but you also have to know how to survive the aftermath of the civil or criminal possibilities, and then the psychological effects of maybe having taken a human life. So there is a lot to think about.
Yep, and you're a former Marine, so how did you get into this?
Well, many years ago, my last job in the Marine Corps was as a weapons platoon sergeant, and we were responsible for training newbies that came in, and of course, I thought I knew how to shoot before the Marines got a hold of me, and then really taught me what I was supposed to know. And it just, after teaching half the people in my neighborhood to shoot, I had the opportunity to take an instructor class.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, what the heck? I taught all these people. I might as well have the certifications to do it. And it just kind of mushroomed from there. I never really intended to be an instructor and do it for a living. I just was a certification junkie, and ended up working at a local range and worked there for several years, and as CCW instructor and basic pistol and everything else. And I don't know, you know how it is. Life takes different changes.
Yeah, we're glad to have you doing what you do, because, you know, we're seeing around the country more and more people are buying firearms, and more people want to know how to use a firearm for self-defense.
Well, it's we do a once-a-month free gun safety class, and of course, part of it's a hook because we'd like people to take further training with us, but also part of it is my wife and I look at it as a civic duty. I want people to understand how they work. I want people to be good representatives of the shooting sports and of guns, because, you know, the more people that are out there that understand that it's just a tool, it's a useful thing, it's not scary, the more people like that, the less likely it is that somebody's going to try to take my gun rights away.
There was a woman there. She said, you know, there were two guys from the store sitting on the sidewalk, and they were very upset afterwards. It's not like they wanted to do what they did, but they really didn't have much choice.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I always try to call my students, and my worst nightmare is the guy with more testosterone than brain cells that think this is some kind of glorious thing that he's going to go out and do, and it's absolutely not. I want everyone to understand that if you end up in that situation where you absolutely have the last resort of using a gun, that it's the other guy that put himself in that position where that was your only choice. It's most gun owners are not that vigilante attitude. It's just not there.